So I've been thinking about doing a video like this for a while now. And after the game on Monday, I just think this might be the right time for me to put something out like this. Because after that game, I think what was on everybody's lips was, how does Manchester United score 4 goals at home but still do not win the game? And I just think it is the right time for us to dive into this video and sort of talk about some of the reasons why we're able to score 4 goals, but we cannot come out with a win, which we should have, you know. So I hope you do enjoy the video, and as we go through, if you have any thoughts, just let me know in the comment section. And also, please, if this is your first time on Red Side Rant, please subscribe. So I have a chart here, right? And it sort of has the statistics from last season and this season. And just looking at it right now, you can clearly see some things that have been highlighted, right? In green and in red, right? I want us to pay attention to those. Because these right here are our stats from 2024 and our stats from 2025. So I have it, Manchester United 2024, 2025 versus 2025, 2026 stats. These stats were collected from the official Premier League's website. So if you doubt, you can have a look. But if you look at it, we've currently played 16 games, right? And how many goals have we scored? 30 goals. That's one thing that already stands out compared to last season. Last season, we played a total of 38 games and only scored 44 goals. That's less than 1.5 goals per game, which is very, very bad. I mean, it's very, very bad. That is why we found ourselves at the bottom of the table. But if you look at this season, right, we've played 16 games and we've scored 30 goals. We're averaging about 2 goals a game, almost 2 goals a game, you know. That's the numbers you put up when you're fighting for something. That is the number you put up when you're fighting for something. The only club that has scored more goals than us this season is Manchester City. Surprisingly, it is Manchester City. We've scored more goals. I think we're level on goals with Arsenal, or we've probably scored more goals than them. We've scored more goals than the likes of Chelsea, all the other teams in the Premier League. The only team that has scored more goals than us is Manchester City, right? But now, this is where there is a problem. Goals conceded. Goals conceded. We conceded 54 goals last season, and we've already conceded 26 this season. That is not good. You cannot be scoring 40 goals and you're conceding 26 goals. That's not the numbers you want to put up when you want to fight for something. And that's the reason why we find ourselves where we're currently. You know, that's why we scored 4 goals at home and we cannot come out with a win, because we concede left, right, center. That's bad. Look at our XG of last season, 53.4, but we only scored 44 goals. We were not performing up to our expected goals. If you want to win the league or you want to win something, you need to outperform your XG. Like Bournemouth did against us. Bournemouth scored 4 goals, but their XG was not up to 2. That is what you need to do when you want to win the league. You need to outperform your XG. But we were underperforming our XG. We scored 44 goals from an expected goals of 54. But this season, we're performing, so we're scoring as much as we're supposed to. And some of us could probably argue that we should have scored more, you know. But our XG says, our expected goal says it should be 30.77, and we scored 30 goals. I would love that number to go up. But these numbers is all down to one thing, right? The numbers from last season versus the numbers this season is all down to one thing. The players, right? This is what we had last season at Manchester United. And this is what we have this season at Manchester United. And you can probably add Mount to that list, because Mason Mount is like a new signing, right? He's pretty much like a new signing because he did not play the last 2 seasons. because of injury. But this season, he's looked like a different guy, and he's contributing. So you can add Mason Mount to that list. But this is the difference. This is the difference, right? This versus this. Ineos going out there and investing 200 million on the likes of Sesko, despite him not really performing. And that's why I said you could probably add Mason Mount in there, because he's been the one who has been playing a lot more games than Sesko has. But going out there and getting Sesko, getting Cunha, getting Mbeumo, that's the difference between last season and this season. The attack, the players. We've gone out there and we've brought in some players who have experience in the league, who are good, like who know how to score goals. Mbeumo has already scored 6 goals, which I think he should be doing better. But if he keeps up with those numbers, at the end of the season, he's probably going to find himself scoring about 15 goals for Manchester United. I don't remember the last time we had an attacker who scored 15 goals just in the Prem. If he keeps up with those numbers, he's going to be scoring about 15 goals, you know? So we're not just having the likes of Garnacho who would find themselves in so many good positions but are not able to bury those chances. We have the likes of Mbeumo who come up with, you know, goals when needed. You look at the goal against Brighton when we were 3-2 up, but it looked like Brighton were going to come back in the game. That finish, very few players can do that. And Mbeumo is one of them. And we have him at Manchester United. You look at Cunha, the work rate he puts in. Look at the part he played against Bournemouth. And you could argue that if we did not have these guys, that halftime record would be gone. It would be gone. But it is down to these guys. Cunha, the work rate he puts in, Mount, Mbeumo, Bruno, Sesko, even him coming up. Cunha's goal was because of the cross Sesko put in. It's because of that cross. I know he was trying to find Ahmad, but it fell for Cunha and we got the goal. When you have such players in attack, you find yourself scoring amazing goals. You find yourself scoring more goals. But like I said, this is where we have a problem. When we go to the defense, we're conceding so many goals. So many goals. So many goals. You look at we've been taking... You could argue that our playing style and our tactics have not really changed from last season, because we're still doing the same things we were doing last season. A lot of times last season, we went into games and you could come out of those games and say, we should have won this game. Like we've been saying for some of the games this season still. We should have won this game. We should have won this game. We should have walked away with all the 3 points. But why didn't we win any of those games? Because our attackers could not just bury their chances. That is where the problem was. That is where the problem was. We were creating so many chances. You look at the shots inside the box, the shots on target, 175. We're currently at 91. Shots inside the opposition box, 194, 87. Shots outside of 109, 53. Touches in the opposition box, 1,035, 473. You know, penalties scored. We scored 4. We've already missed 2 this season. Free kick scored. That's another thing. That's another big thing. We had 15, but we've only scored 2. Now we have 4, and I think it's 2. It's supposed to be 2 because Bruno scored 1 again against Bournemouth, and the one Mason Mount scored against what's that? Wolves? Yeah. So you see, like, some of those little details are the things we don't pay attention to. Last season, we only scored 2 free kicks from the total of 15. This season, we've already scored 2 from 5. From 4 or 5, something like that. You see? And this is another thing we need to improve on. If we can improve on maybe the crosses, like the crosses completed, I know the percentage has gone up, like the completed percentage has gone up compared to last season. But if we can improve on stuff like this and get on the end of those crosses, it's only going to go on to make our attack better. It's only going to go on to make our attack better. But our problem now is defending. It is defending. But you can say that we have so many good defenders at Manchester United. We have Delete, Martinez, who hasn't been fit but he's back now, Maguire, Euro, Aiden Heaven, Luke Shaw, Dalot, Mazwari. Like, we have so many, even Fredrickson, Tyler Fredrickson from the academy, we have so many defenders. But what happens to be the problem? Why are we still conceding so many goals? That's the next question. And it boils down to one thing. We've been saying it all season, the midfield. It boils down to the midfield. You look at some of the goals we considered against Bournemouth, it was just so easy for the ball to get played through the midfield. You know, the first half was quite different. It's like they hadn't figured us out yet. But when they went out at halftime, it's like the manager told them, target the midfield. Target the midfield. You know, the first goal, that was during the first half. But the second goal, look at what happened. The run from the midfield. That is why Casemiro had to bring him down. That is why Casemiro had to bring him down. And we got the free, we considered the free kick, which led to the goal. You look at Evan Nilsson's goal. It came from the midfield. That ball was played through the midfield. You look at the last goal for the equalizer from the midfield. That is where we are struggling. That's where there is a problem. And that's why every day we come here and say we cannot wait for the January transfer window, because we just need someone who can come in there with some legs, who can run, who can defend, who can cover the defense, because defending starts from the front. And we can probably argue that those from the front, they do their job. But what happens when that line is broken? Your midfield needs to cover you. If the midfield is nowhere to be found, then what happens? You're left with the defense. It doesn't matter if you play a back four or back five or whatever you play, a back six, back 10, whatever it is, the ball is just going to go through. You know, just one line, just one ball through. That's it. But if you have your midfielders covering the defense, it makes it difficult for the opposition to just play that ball through. And some of you can argue that we have the answers at home in Kobe Mainoo, right? But one thing we fail to understand is that this is a midfield too. And that's why after the game against Bournemouth, I said I was so excited to see what the 4-3-3 would look like with Mainoo in midfield, because he's a very good player. But if he is not looked after, he's going to end up like the other players. The likes of Garnacho, the likes of Rashford, the likes of, you know, a lot of young players have come through Manchester United over the years, but they have not been looked after. I can go back few more years to talk about many more players. We have McTominay right now, who is doing absolutely well in Italy. We have the likes of, in fact, so many players have come through Manchester United Academy and have been promoted to the first team, but they could not make it through because they were not looked after. I understand it's a World Cup year. Kobe needs the minute. He needs to see if he can find himself amongst that squad for the World Cup. But you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're pushing to make the World Cup squad, but you end up ruining your career, which is what has happened to a lot of players. They've not been looked after, a lot of pressure, young players playing so many minutes. And one more thing, like I said, Kobe is a very good player, but I don't think he's going to work in the midfield too. And even if he can work in the midfield too, I don't think we have those players who can work alongside Kobe in the midfield too. If you're going to play in midfield too, you need players who can look after the ball. Ugarte cannot look after the ball. Bruno can probably, like, Bruno as well. There's a lot of times he does misplace the passes, and you're gonna need someone else to cover him. Now that brings us to Casemiro. But what's the problem with Casemiro? He does not have the legs. He is old. He is tired. He does not have those legs. And now that's where it's like you can't play Kobe, who is somewhat slow as well. You cannot play him alongside Casemiro because now he doesn't have that cover. He doesn't have that player who is gonna do the dirty work and let him do the creative work. Let him dictate the tempo, because that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna dictate the tempo. He's gonna look after the ball. He's gonna create the pass. He's gonna play the ball forward. That is the potential he has, but he needs to play alongside the right players for him to shine. Good players make other players look better. You could be a bad player, and if you play amongst good players, you look better. And if you're a good player and you play with better players, you're going to look even better. Which I just believe is what Amorim is trying to do when it comes to Mbeumo. He's trying to make sure that so much pressure is not put on him right now, which ends up ruining his career. Or, he's young. Kobe is going to get his chances. Kobe is going to get his minutes. He is going to get his minutes. It's going to come. And you look at what his brother did on Monday, right? Where he wore the Free Kobe t-shirt. I don't know what to say about that, I don't know what to say because, first of all, I can't really comment because I don't know how he feels. I don't know how the brother feels. But I just think it was somewhat stupid, You're just bringing so much attention to the kid. I understand you want him to play, you want him to make the World Cup squad and all of that, but it doesn't work like that. It's just unnecessary attention. Kobe is gonna get his minutes. Trust me, I believe that he's gonna play for Manchester United. I just don't see him play for another team. He might go out on loan, but he's gonna come back and play for Manchester United. And now that leads us to the question: who is gonna work alongside Kobe if we're gonna play a midfield two? I would love for us to play a midfield three, because with a midfield two, I don't see Bruno playing in the 10 in this system. I just don't see him playing in the 10 in this system. If you want me to be honest. If Bruno is going to play in the 10, I think we need to play a 4-3-3. And now, that's going to maximize everybody's strengths. Bruno can play in the 10 where he's good. Kobe can play in the 8 where he's good. And now you bring someone else in. Is that Baleba? Is that Anderson? Is it Adam Wharton? Is it going to be Stiller? Is it going to be Conor Gallagher? Or is it going to be, what's his name again? He plays for Chelsea. But you guys know. Santos, I think it's Andre Santos. Yeah, this is the short man list Manchester United has for our midfield targets. Who's he going to be? I like Baleba because I think he's going to come in with the legs. He also has that composure on the ball. He can receive the ball, turn, pass. He can progress the ball. I like Baleba and I like Anderson. Though if you ask me to pick one, these two would be my preference. I also like Andre Santos, but I doubt Chelsea is going to sell. I doubt they're going to sell him. He's like a Caicedo backup right now. But with Caicedo, I don't think unless Caicedo has an injury, I don't think he's getting benched for Santos. So we might stand a chance, but I don't think Chelsea is going to sell him to us, or they're going to make it hard for us. Another one I like was Conor Gallagher. I like his work rate, but is he going to be the same player from Chelsea a couple seasons ago? He has that Prem experience, so it sort of minimizes the risk, and he's going to be cheap. But the question now is he going to be that same player? Now, when it comes to Steeler, I don't just see him as the like, he's going to be a good addition to the team, right? And I think that it's a profile we need, because he's going to be doing something somewhat similar to what Kobe would be doing. He's not that destroyer, that protection in front of the back, your defense. He's not that guy, because he's gonna push forward. He's gonna try to create. He's gonna progress the ball and all of that. And he doesn't have that Premier League experience. So while I think he's a good profile, he's a very good player, someone I would love to have in the squad. If we're gonna sign one player from here, he's definitely not that guy. And that brings me to Adam Wharton, right? Because I know a lot of people like him. I just see Adam Wharton as well as a similar player to Kobe. He's somewhat similar to Kobe, if you ask me. So what's the point of having Kobe Mainoo if you're going to go out there and get Adam Wharton? He's not an out-and-out defensive midfielder. He's not. So there's no point splashing 100 million on Adam Wharton. I just think it's just one of those players who just doesn't make sense if we're going to go for him. If you want someone to come in as an 8, go for Stiller. He's going to be cheaper. And you have Kobe as well. But if you're looking for a defensive midfielder who's going to come in and work in the midfield 2 or still in the midfield 3, because if we're going to play in midfield 3, we don't have that player still. If you're looking for someone like that, go for Baliba, go for Anderson, go for Santos, go for Gallagher. Those are players we can go for. But I just don't see Stiller or Adam Wharton as those players to come in and play in the midfield 2, even in midfield 3, if they're going to play as a defensive midfielder. But what we need to understand is the problem at Manchester United right now is down to the midfield and the defense. And we also need to understand that it is not going to get fixed overnight. People come here every day and they're like, sack the manager, sack the manager, sack the manager. I don't know how long you've been supporting Manchester United for, but I'm tired. Since Sir Alex Ferguson left, I'm tired of backing new managers. I don't see the problem here. The only problem we have is we don't have the right players. We don't have the right characters in the dressing room. And it's going to take a couple seasons, a couple transfer windows to get that sorted out. We need to sort out our wing backs. We need to sort out our midfield. And we still probably need to sort out our defense. This season, we kind of focused all of our money on attack, which is paying off. It is paying off because while we're still conceding as much as we were conceding last season, we're also scoring a lot more goals. And that is what is helping us. That's why we find ourselves at 6th position. And you could even argue that if we had a good midfield, we had a good defense, we would probably be top 2, top 3. I still say that. But unfortunately, we still have the players from last season. That is why we still have some of the problems from last season. It is going to take time. It is going to take time for the manager to bring in the players he needs, for the manager to sort everything out. But we need to back the manager. We need to back the manager. And we can argue that sometimes he creates the problems for himself, but he's also learning. He's also learning. If you want to sack the manager right now, who do you go and get? And where do you start from? You bring another manager in who wants to bring his own players in. That's not what we want to keep dealing with. That's not what we want to keep dealing with. And if you look at right now, even like from last season to this season, some of the players, if not a lot of the players, have improved. They are buying into what the manager wants. You look at the likes of Delete. Delete has improved so much to the point where when he's not playing, we feel like he should be playing because of what we're seeing the other defenders doing. You know, you look at Dalot. Dalot at the start of the season, I was one of the people who criticized Dalot so much. But if you look at the last 5 games, I don't know how many games, but the last couple of games, he's improved so much. He scored a goal. He's had an assist. And you could argue that he should have, I don't know if Cunha touched the ball against Bournemouth, but he was the one who put in the cross. So he's doing what a fullback is supposed to do. So guess what? If he can keep up with those same numbers throughout the season, or we bring someone else in who can give us those numbers consistently, while Ahmad also gives his numbers from the other side. And now if we have a defense, a good defensive midfielder, and we have better defenders, or our defenders can improve as well, you could argue that we would definitely be nailing down top 4. We would. We're still at the start of the season, and those games haven't started coming in thick yet. When those games start coming in thick and those other teams start picking up injuries while we play once a week, that is where we're going to see how beneficial it is playing once a week. And like I said, if we get a defensive midfielder in, we might just make Champions League football for next season. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But like I said, one thing we need to know is there's some improvements. It might not be a lot. You might not notice it a lot. But if you look at the numbers, pay attention to the numbers, you would see where there is some improvement, if not a lot of improvement. It is going to take time to get to where we're supposed to be, but we are going to get there. Back the manager, give him time, and let's see how the season goes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and if you still haven't subscribed, please remember to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, like the video so I can also create more videos like this.